Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you again to the Learning Services Lunchtime Hot Topics. Today is October 19th, 2016. We've got a few updates for you today. First of all, we will be giving some more updates on KISA, the new accreditation model, as we've been doing trainings around the state. We hope you're getting plugged into that. We've got some additional information on frequently asked questions that have been coming up throughout the tours and the event. So be excited to give you some more updates. We also have some new updates on the Every Student Succeeds Act, the federal legislation, so you'll be getting some more information there. And then finally, some more information on the Dropout graduation summary. I want to remind you that throughout this or anytime if you have questions, need some more clarification, or you have suggestions for future topics, please send those to lunchtime@ksde.org. We get some really good input from the field throughout these, so I encourage you to send us your thoughts. I also want to remind everybody it's not too late to register for the annual conference. This theme again this year is Kansans Can. There will be Randy will be giving a presentation alongside Blake Flanders, CEO of the Kansas Board of Regents. That'll be followed by Branden Boostede from the Gallup poll. So be some interesting information about how this all fits into what's going on nationally. Some great breakout sessions through the conference on how school districts are implementing many of the initiatives. And then on Wednesday, we'll be closing the conference with Mitch Holtis, the voice of the chief. So excited about the annual conference. Again, that's coming up just next week, so not too late to register this week.
Welcome everybody to Hot Topics. This is the presentation for the Dropout Graduation Summary Report, or the DGSR as I'm going to refer to it the rest of the presentation. My name is Brandon Johnson. I'm the Education Program Consultant in charge of monitoring the DGSR. We just want to remind everybody that the DGSR provides all schools and districts an opportunity to review and certify their dropout graduation data. So really what that means is when you come into the DGSR, you need to make sure that you check every single thing off and make sure it's accurate data from your local system to the kids' data that's been uploaded and then into the DGSR. And if it isn't, then you start communicating with me so we can hopefully get that fixed. This is the only opportunity for you to do this. Make sure you get it done before October 31st because this will be used in your AMO calculations and other publications like the Principal's Building Report, the K through 12 report. It's possible that your local newspaper or local news station can get a hold of this information. So you really want to make sure it's good, clean, accurate data that best represents you and your students. These are the three things that you really need to focus on the DGSR: the post-graduation plans, unresolved exits and dropouts, 4 and 5 year cohort graduations information. And then if you're a building that's only K through 8, you will only need to review your unresolved exits and dropouts. Obviously, you don't have any graduation or 4 or 5 year cohort situations. The submission window opened on Monday, October 3rd. For those of you that have already started or even completed, thank you very much. For those of you that have not, please get started on that as soon as possible because it does close on Monday, October 31st. Some of you, if you're like me, you're a procrastinator and that seems like a long ways away. But for the amount of information that you need to cover, it is quickly coming. So please get on top of that and get as much of it done now as you can. So if any issues arise, we can do everything we can to help you get those fixed before the window closes. Any school or school district that does not submit their information by the 31st, we're going to assume that all of your information is accurate and upload that in to all of the reports that will come out. It is an authenticated application. So if you do not have access to that, you can see the link on the screen here. You can easily access that through the KSDE website as well. Please get that added to your authenticated applications page. And there's also information in the Kansas graduation dropout information handbook as well. Please don't wait to review your data. If this is the first time you're hearing this, we'd really like for you to get into it today or tomorrow at the latest and review all the data that you have, include all the stakeholders that need to be a part of this process, any administrative assistant, counselor, special education coordinator, high school building principal, whatever it might be, to make sure that all of your data is uploaded correctly in your local system, and then make sure that it's uploaded into the kids system. That way the DGSR can update and get all of your stuff corrected. We also want you to participate in any new and returning user webinars. I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit when I tell you where those are at and what they're called. So the new user training is actually recorded and labeled New User October 2015 on the graduation webpage. So if you're at ksde.org and you go to the subject index and you click on G, that'll take you to graduation. You'll find the new user training and the returning user training. Both of these are very helpful. I even go back and look at them as the person in charge of this just to kind of refresh on a couple of things to make sure that I'm accurately evaluating everything that's inputted. Here's my information. Please feel free to contact me via phone or email. I'm probably quickest to get back to you via email because I'm not always at my desk. So if I'm in a meeting or if I'm away at some kind of training, I can still get back to you. But sometimes things are very gray and iffy, so we really do need to talk on the phone to kind of clarify some things. So please feel free to do that. And at the same time, I want to remind everybody, as you're going through this process, please evaluate the systems that you have in place to input data into your local system, to input data into the KID system and how it comes into the DGSR. Because we do want to evaluate the system and make sure it's as efficient as possible for not only you, but your employers or your employees and all of your students that come in and out of your district. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your October.
Hello, Kansas. This is Scott Meyers again, here to talk with you about the Kansas Education Systems Accreditation. The topic du jour is outside validation teams. As I'm sure you're aware, with the new KISA system, a pivotal element of our system is the inclusion of the outside validation team. As you can see on the screen right now, it's made up of professionals from across the field whose intention is to serve in a coaching and mentoring and supporting sort of role over the 5-year cycle. And what we're looking for is an objective third party to be able to come in and basically see the forest through the trees. As we all know, when we're too close to something, sometimes it's hard to be objective. The idea of the OVT is to be able to come in and really help people see the areas that might need to be developed and or focus on which to focus. This, of course, will lead to a certain amount of accountability and fidelity for the organizations. And then also, as a real true side benefit, it allows a cross-district collaboration of sorts. So I know when I was in the field, some of the best way for me to learn was to go visit another district. And so take some of those ideas home. As I said a second ago, we're looking for a variety of players to be involved with the OVT. We would have superintendents, central office folk, principals, teachers, paraprofessionals, whomever works within a school system that could contribute to this type of work would be viable players. And the overall importance of it is to help the individual systems look at their data and help them with the interpretation so that they know which areas of growth on which to focus. As far as why you as an individual might want to be involved in this, I alluded to this earlier as well. The best learning that takes place can be going out and walking the halls of another system to see how they go about dealing with a given situation. Take those ideas home with you. Secondly, we're looking at incentivizing people to be involved. So we're going to allow people to earn professional development credits, which will help with their relicensing as far as on their license every so often has to be renewed. And once again, it gains exposure to other systems and their cultures and how they go about doing things. If you start doing the math on this, we have right at 400 systems in the state of Kansas who are accredited. And so we need basically an entire army of people to come forward and serve as OVT members. We're looking to make sure these relationships are set up regionally so as to mitigate any expenses and just the pragmatics of getting to someplace else to work. At the same time, we want to make sure that there's a certain amount of arm's length guidelines in place, meaning we would have people sign a conflict of interest sheet. And so I personally would not be able to work on an OVT where, let's say, my wife is employed or where my kids go to school, where it's a little too close. So we need to look at our neighbors who are close enough for it to be practical for us to be there, but we're not in each other's business so much that the objectivity is impacted. The actual responsibilities and expectations, once again, the membership will be made up of a variety of professionals from across the state. We're looking for a 5-year commitment. That's part of the expectation. Also, the expectation is that if for some odd reason someone needs to leave an OVT, that individual will communicate that early enough so that we can get other people into the system or into that particular grouping. We also expect that the individuals to be visible and present and truly be good thought partners with their systems. Depending on a role within the OVT, will fairly well determine how much time we're talking about. This is a 5-year cycle. So in years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the chair, whomever is the chair of the OVT, would be physically present at the district. The individuals who are serving as team members, but they're not chairs, they just haven't decided to do that yet, or they've just not received the training, it'd be incumbent upon them to be on site in years 1, 3, and 5. Now, if people wanted to show up in years 2 and 4 to foster that relationship and to continue the professional growth that takes place, that's great, all power. But the expectation is for the team members to show up 3 times throughout the cycle, and most importantly, of course, at the beginning and at the end. But we do want a continual long-term relationship. There will be training that takes place, probably held regionally. We have more details to be worked out on that, but the training itself will be wrapped around 2 big buckets, if you will. One is on the content of KISA, the XYZ of it, if you will, all the R's, the stovepipes within each R, the terminology, the content itself. Then the other aspect of it would be the process, and that's helping the system so that the OVT members are trained in such a manner so as to assist the district or the system where they're visiting through the process of the needs assessment, the data analysis, the choosing of an approach to meet their growth area, and then the evaluation, if you will, of their efforts. So 2 big pieces of training. We are looking to, as I said previously, to have those trainings operating on a regional basis. We'll be utilizing our friends in the service center world and be looking for information on the trainings themselves, probably mid to late spring. We are hoping that systems will be choosing their OVT members coming into the fall of 17. So there's no need to go out and rush around and find people right now. But ultimately, we would want teams being shored up for the fall of 17. And while I'm talking about choosing, that's an important piece. Each system in the state will choose their own OVT members. We would want the OVT members, obviously, all to be trained, but the KSDE will not be making assignments. We'll be providing training opportunities, and then there'll be, through the work of the service centers, you'll be able to choose the people who would work with your individual system. And then, of course, I already talked about the visits that take place. There's 5 years, 5 sets of visits. It's great if everybody can be there for all of them, but we also ought to take advantage of our telecommuting abilities. And so if it's not possible to get someplace in years 2 and 4, let's say, and you're a team member, maybe you could beam in. We're open to that concept. As far as developing the team goes, as ahead of the slide, I mentioned this a second ago, individual systems will choose their OVT members. If you happen to be in the Kansas Learning Network it might make perfect sense for you to use your KLN supports as your OVT. Similarly, if you are a district-wide or system-wide MTSS system, that too would make sense if you chose to use them as your OVT. If your system currently pursues advanced ed accreditation, great, have at it. The KISA Advisory Council has will be making the recommendation that advanced ed can serve as an OVT. I do want to make it super clear though, advanced ed accreditation and state of Kansas accreditation are two different things. I would fully anticipate that a system that achieves advanced ed accreditation, that would more than likely ultimately be approved by the state of Kansas, but it is possible that it might not. I don't know why that would occur, but it could occur. What happens, how the system would work is whatever configuration is used for an OVT, that group, in this scenario we're talking about advanced ed, that group would make a final recommendation to a group called the ARC, or the Accreditation Review Committee. So advanced ed would write up their recommendation. Kansas MTSS group would write up their recommendation. The KLN network would write up their recommendation and then submit it to the ARC. The ARC would then take a look at the information that's been sent to them, and then they would make their own standalone recommendation to the State Board of Education. So it is possible that one recommendation might be different from another. I don't believe it's very probable. I don't believe that at all. The systems align very nicely. But I do want to make sure that people understand it's the State Board of Kansas accreditation that determines whether a system in the state of Kansas is state accredited or not. Fourth bullet there is the service centers. I talked about that previously, about regionally creating OVTs, and so that's how they could get in the mix as well, and we hope that they do. We need a variety of players all pulling the same direction. And then the fifth bullet is just other options that we haven't even considered at this point. So we are open to hearing from the field as to what else might work for developing the team. The grand takeaway of this screen, though, is that you as a system, you choose who is your OVT or who is on your OVT, your outside validation team. Here's an example of what an OVT might look like. Just because it's in print here doesn't mean it has to be this way, only this way. But this is a representation that shows this happens to have 5 members on the OVT made up of these 5 different professions within our system. We have higher ed representation, professional staff, superintendents, building leadership, teachers. And once again, this is just an example. We have individual systems with 100 buildings. We have a system in the state of Kansas with 55 kids total. So it's not reasonable to think that all of the OVTs will look the same. They won't. But what this, as a metaphor, this slide shows is it's a variety of players from a variety of different systems all coming together to work with the central system. So in this certain pictorial, we've got a teacher from District A, building leadership from District B, superintendent from System C, and so on, all coming together to work with the system on their accreditation cycle. As far as what takes place, we have the next 5 slides are years 1 through 5. It is what you've known. You've seen other graphic organizers around this, but here's what takes place. Sometime before March 15th, in year 1, the entire team will come out on site and they'll look at the documentation that's been gathered by the local, and they'll schedule, well, having scheduled the visit to come out and do that, they'll develop the agenda to work through going on site and touring the facilities and just getting a feel for the system, and then utilizing the documentation, review with the local system the goal areas that they've chosen. So basically it boils down to, the system says, we think we need to grow some in responsive culture and relevance, let's just say. the OVT would come on site and say, okay, you've chosen those 2 areas. Why? And so the local system would provide their documentation, and there'd be a conversation would ensue where at the end of the time together, at the end of year 1, then a report will be submitted to the KSDE that basically says, here are the 2 areas, goal areas for the system, and everybody's on the same page and understands why. We'd move into then year 2, and now the chair comes around again, if you recall that. The individual members might, they don't have to, but the chair does, and is engaged in these activities. Seeing as the system is launching their efforts, all geared from the information they garnered the year previous. Moving into year 3, the whole team comes back together. We're on site and basically saying, well, how are things going? Discuss the goal progress. And so basically say, well, you're doing this, that, and the other. What if you did this? Or that sounds good, or however it might go. But basically, it's just that impartial, objective third party coming in to say, how are things going for you? As a part of that, the OVT would then submit a report back to the system leadership saying, here's what we think, here's what we've seen. Nothing's coming to the state at this point. You sent in something at the very first year. Now we're in year 3, and it's just working. Year 4 is pretty much a follow-up from year 2, or a mirror of year 2, except for the final bullet here, because now we're starting to prep for the 5-year wrap-up. And the 5-year wrap-up, that's where the accreditation determination is made. So we have another site visit by the chair, and we continue our coaching efforts. So here's where it all comes together. Year 5, the final full day visit, the whole team's on site, looking at the final report. Following their work on site, the OVT would provide information to be presented to the local Board of Education, or the OVT itself might make that presentation. We've not put any of that into stone yet, but the information would get back to the Board of Education, then ultimately leading to a final report with a recommendation to the ARC, the Accreditation Review Committee, who then sends on their final recommendation to the State Board of Education regarding the accreditation status of a system. So there you go. That is the OVT as far as the broad strokes of how it works. More training is coming, but this is a great overview for you to use with your staff, with your school board, your site councils. How was this all come together? Well, through the OVT. So with that, I'll sign off. You see our contact information on the screen. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to give me a holler. Either email me or give me a call, or feel free to call Bill or Kelly or, of course, Brad if you have any questions regarding the OVT. Thank you so much.